Hello, welcome to my channel, another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and I am going to do the What Makes an Author Great tag. This is the brainchild of Doris at Read All the Books. And I saw this on Brian's channel, Bookish. Brian had recently tagged me in the wintry tag, and I was going to do that today. But after I saw him do this tag, I decided I really wanted to do this tag much more than the wintry book tag, because the wintry book tag had some questions which were sort of holiday related, and the holiday is over. But this is fresh and new, so I'm doing this one instead. There are 10 prompts. Prompt number 1. A great author whose work you've read in their entirety. Not many authors can qualify for this, but the one that I can think of who's still around and kicking and writing books is Tana French. She is an Irish mystery author, most known for her so-called series, the Dublin Murder series. Although calling it a series is a little iffy. She likes to switch out main characters, where book number 1 has one character narrating the story and has a sidekick character. In book number 2, the narrator of book number 1 isn't around, and sidekick is now the narrator of book 2. And then the boss of sidekick is the narrator of book 3. And the rival to the narrator in book 3 is the narrator of book 4. So she progresses along with her narrators. And it is just a wonderful way and refreshing way to read mystery stories, because it's all new. When you're reading book number 3, you hate the rival to the narrator number 3. And you go into book number 4 saying, how can I stand this character? He's going to be awful. And you know, that awfulness you saw in book number 3, it's still there. But she brings in a humane side to that character you disliked. So it's really an exciting way to write mysteries. And her mysteries are very real mysteries. There are no elaborate explosions or car chases or gun battles. One of my favorite scenes is set in a pub in book number 3, where the narrator is sort of investigating a 17-year-old murder case. When he was just a lad, he was going to run off to England with his girlfriend and start a rock band. But she ditched him. And the narrator, distraught, joined the police officers. Bad move if you're an Irish lad. They don't like the police officers in his neighborhood. But 17 years later, her body is found. She was murdered. And he's not the official investigator. That's the dastardly narrator of book 4. But here they are, he's talking around the pub with his old mates. And the reader knows something, that the murderer is sitting around this table with the narrator, getting drunk. And as they get drunk, all the characters start talking. And you're trying to figure out what sort of clues are being given to the reader. Because the reader knows that murderer is there, because it's a mystery. And it's just so wonderfully well done. A truly excellent series of murder mysteries. Prompt number 2. A great author who is a one-hit wonder. I'm going to hold up T.E.D. Klein, The Ceremonies. This is his one and only novel. This was published in 1980, I believe, somewhere around there. He had written some short stories in the 70s, and that a collection of short stories, Dark Gods, is absolutely fabulous. And this is an excellent novel. It's not as good as his short stories, maybe. The Events of Poworth Farm is a short or novella, actually, which sort of morphed into this novel. But still, this is a novel that you need to seek out. It was out of print for decades. I do believe it has been recently reprinted. So grab The Ceremonies. And what happened to T.E.D. Klein? I have no idea. So far as I know, he's still living in New York City. He's just not writing anymore. Prompt number 3. A great author who's had a flop or two. William Faulkner has written some of the greatest novels in American literature in the first half of the 20th century. Pylon, everything I've heard about Pylon says you can skip this book. It's not considered his worst novel. His worst novel, I believe, is Mosquitoes, which was his second novel, and that might have been a comedy. No one likes mosquitoes, as far as I know. But Pylon ranks up there with books that you don't need to read by a great author. And what's really odd, it was sandwiched in between, after writing Light in August and I believe Absalom. Light in August and Absalom are two of Faulkner's greatest novels. And this, as far as I know, is a complete flop. It's about aviators in a town that isn't called New Orleans, but is New Orleans. Prompt number 4. A great author you read when you were young. I didn't actually read a lot when I was young. I started reading a lot in 6th grade, and I picked up an author that my 6th grade teacher really was not pleased that I picked up. And that was H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft was too advanced for a 6th grader, but I soldiered through and made it to the end and grew to love this author, who is problematic. And even after 6th grade, around sort of 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, I read some later stories like The Horror at Red Hook. And even as a kid in the 70s, I was raising my eyebrows going, what the hell is wrong with him talking about all them foreigners? Because H.P. Lovecraft did not like foreigners. But still, he is a great author, even if he's problematic, and is the closest author that I have read or did read when I was young. Prompt number 5, a great author whose works are considered classics. Now, I think everyone will agree with me that Thomas Hardy is a great author, and he is a classic author. And I love his sense of dread and doom and darkness about his 5 main novels. And Jude the Obscure is perhaps my favorite of his books, because I could really feel for Jude Fawley, who wanted to be more than what he was allotted in life. Back then, you were assigned a position in society, and he wanted to rise above that and be a clergyman. But no, he was regulated to be a working man, a stone carver. And he got into some, what now people would say, sexual hijinks. He did not conform to the norms of society in sexual matters, and that got him into a lot of trouble. Excellent writer, excellent book. I just really love Thomas Hardy. Prompt number 6, a great author with a cutting-edge novel. Now this is going to be kind of a strange, because this is a translation. This is A Void by Georges Perec. In the original French, this was written as a lipogram. And a lipogram is a form of writing where the author is not allowed to use a certain letter. So you can write anything you want, but you cannot use words with that letter. And the letter Perec chose was the letter E, the most common letter in the French language. Now, his name, Gilbert Adler, translated Perrec's novel into English. Now, is this a translation or is this an adaptation? Because he translated this novel as a lipogram. So there are no letter E's in this book. And it is strange, it is odd, it is fabulous. It is cutting edge because he is doing something that the language really resists. It is hard to create an English sentence without using the letter E and have it sound normal. The author and the translator does a pretty good job. But as I said, this is more of an adaptation than a translation because the author had to take a lot of liberties to do that. And once you go with that many liberties, it ceases to become a direct translation and more of an adaptation. But still, I love this book. This is going to be a buddy read, or should be a buddy read, with Sandy and Miss Reads a Lot sometime this year. And I'm really looking forward to digging into this book again. Prompt number 7. An author whose work you consider impactful. I'm going to go with Native Son by Richard Wright. Yes, that is a book written well before I was born. But it is impactful because Richard Wright brought to life a character, an African-American character, in the city of Chicago. He is poor, and there is a rich family who's trying to help him out. But there are a series of unfortunate circumstances. He murders his employer's daughter. It is not an intentional murder. It is accidental. But a black man who murders a white woman is not going to have it good in Chicago in those times. So what does he do? He goes to rather extreme measures to conceal that murder. And it's impactful because when I first read it in my 20s, it really brought home racism to me in a ways that I had never really known existed. And those sentiments still are in existence today, even though that book is very old. Prompt number 8, a great author of nonfiction. I'm going to go with Robert A. Caro. He is a biographer. This is his first book, The Power Broker, about Robert Moses in New York City. And it is perhaps one of the best works of nonfiction that I have ever read. Caro goes into extreme detail to hammer home his insights. And in this case, how power corrupts and how to abuse power. I won't go into too many details. This is a huge, huge work of nonfiction. This is, in this edition, about 1,200 pages long. And apparently, the publisher made him cut 300 pages from this book. But it will grip you. It is fabulous. He also wrote 4 books on LBJ, which may even be better than this book. I just don't happen to own copies. But a fabulous work of nonfiction. And there is a 5th book coming in the LBJ biographies. He's still working on it. He must be in his 80s, but I am eagerly waiting that book to be published. Prompt number 9. A great author you just don't enjoy reading. Jane Austen. I read Persuasion for Austen July. Was it called Jane Austen July? Yeah, Jane Austen July. And I just did not get into that book. I knew the story because my wife made me watch the movie, and maybe that sort of spoiled it for me, but I just did not care a hoot if Anne got her sea captain. I know I've mentioned that probably in 3 or 4 videos this year because it was just a very disappointing book after hearing so many other booktubers talk about how much they admire Jane Austen and how great of an author she is. And I can see why they think she is great. She's just not great to me. Prompt number 10. A great author you have reread or want to reread soon. This is happening. Thomas Bernhard. I have already reread Wittgenstein's Nephew for this month in January. And in February, there is a group with the Channel of the Disappointed Man. And we are going to be reading Bernhard, at least for February and March, and maybe out. And I read Concrete in the 80s. And Bernhard is, let me say, an acquired taste. I've pointed this out in other videos. His books are entirely 1 paragraph long. According to Bernhard, he does that because he wants to force the reader to pay closer attention to what he's writing and not let them have an easy out. He is extremely pessimistic, and his books go on these rants on different subjects. I happen to love his rants. I find them fascinating. But again, this is an acquired taste, and I will be rereading Concrete in February. And that is the end of the tag. And I want to tag a few people for this who might come up with some different books than mine. Anna Novella, Big Hard Books and Classics, Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff, and Micah Cummings. Thank you all for watching, and keep on reading.